That's the equivocation. Wow, that was super theoretical. Okay. I ran a case for free trade year. That was 2003. I'm old. And the free trade case, we based on the value or goal of competition, economic competition. And we said, choose policies that promote free economic competition, because in the end, that always creates a race to the top. Meaning, some nations do what they do best, other nations do what they do best. It increases overall wealth. Yay, good. That's a value argument of this kind. It is not a value argument of this kind. Because we used that viewpoint here, some people voted against us because they said you're not supposed to have a value. So we changed the word from value to goal halfway through the year, and magically, poof, most of those objections went away. But then some people were like, it sounds like you have a value. This is value. You're bringing value debate to policy. And then that would set off weird things in people's minds, and they would vote against you for that. So that's the ill that we're addressing. Now way back over here. How do you explain it? Fast. How do you justify it to a judge who doesn't think this way? There's no perfect answer. You can still lose rounds on it. But first of all, as I just said, you can get creative. And all the coaches here, like the reason that they are here is because they think through these things very well. And they'll all have different tips and strategies for you on how to do this. Renaming things is really important. That's why we try to teach you the substance with lots of different words, because you can rename it goal, objective, standard, anything but the word value, and not set off some of those red flags in certain judges' minds. That's one part of the approach. Second, if people call you out on it and you end up in this weird debate, the second best thing to do is to argument from etymology. So bringing it full circle to why I said the great debaters understand the basics well, I cannot count the number of times within 30 seconds I've explained to a judge this. Judge, we're not here to debate a format. We're here to debate a topic. The topic today is that policy should be changed towards the Middle East. Why we do that can't be separated from what we do. In debate, value debate simply means an abstract comparison, whereas policy debate means we're trying to create an action. We're not debating economic liberty versus economic freedom. That's a value debate. We are debating what we should do in the Middle East, and we must discuss why we would do that. That's an essential part of the debate. That would be kind of my explanation, and then I'd move on and see what happens. That's typically how I defend it. I don't know if any other coaches want to pitch in on how they defend that sort of thing. Probably mostly do the same thing.
I never had a challenge.
Okay.
So you're talking about a team policy round. You're talking where you mentioned why you care about certain things using that first definition of value. Would you do the same thing for value debate, saying to the judge it's equally important to discuss how we go about doing this?
Yes. Where's Katie? Oh.
I'm going to tack onto that.
Yeah.
I competed collegially last year. We ran into this huge issue where every metaphor round we had teams who would come up and argue, you have to argue our policy, you have to argue our policy, and they would get annoyed with us for arguing other things outside of the debate round, like arguing their viewpoint, arguing their values, arguing their framework, and they would get furious with us because we weren't actually arguing solvency and, harms. But we ended up having to communicate to judges that there was all this other stuff that was important as well. And we didn't drop around the entire year.
So this is Ty understanding his format and the origination of debate, so that when he debates people who may or may not be technically inferior as debaters, they have lots of research about a case. Ty can exclude all of that research by talking about values. That's a powerful sidestep as a debater, and the best debaters do that all the time. They say, what is your strength? Oh, you researched the nth degree of this policy of why we ought to give the Navajo Indians a bunch of money. That all works under the assumption that they're sovereign nations, which we legally said that they would be, and so on. But you're assuming all of that and spending all of your time talking about the injustices done and why we need to give them money. What if instead of debating that, because I don't really have a strong point there, I just say it's time for them not to be sovereign nations anymore? Now, that's not a terribly strong argument, I will admit. But if the other team has never even thought about that aspect of their case, now you're having a value debate about what it means to be a citizen of the United States. And can you be a citizen of two sovereign nations within the United States at the same time? Very interesting debate. The opponents will be highly frustrated by that because they want to talk about the injustices done to the Navajo Indians, and you're talking about, in the grand scheme of things, what citizenship means. That's what thinking this way unlocks for you as a debater. Yes?
I guess I got two questions.
Sure.
First one is, so if I'm debating team policy and it's a policy resolution, I shouldn't have to do this a whole lot for the year because we should be on the same page debating policy, right?
Actually, I find that team policy is the #1 area where this gets weird. Most people, you can kind of use the format of value and cross into fact kind of okay, and for this year, they're already value resolutions anyway. For team policy, the problem is if you have a case to say unsanction a country or provide humanitarian aid with a country, the root value behind it has to do with life, or it has to do with liberty, or it has to do with some big idea. You can call that out, which is what we will all coach you to do, because it's more persuasive. Or you can just assume it and then wait for the other team to call out some other value. There's no way to really avoid that value clash in policy, unless the other team just is thinking very micro, line by line, and that's a strength to you. I mean, that's just an advantage to you. So the best debaters are going to question your assumptions, including why you do what you do at the most assumptive level, which is the value, and they're going to challenge that. So judges are going to hear that, and they're going to sometimes think or be told, wait, that's a value debate. So you have to overcome this in policy, I think, more than any other format.
So the key resolution this year is that the U.S. should reform its policy with the Middle East. Is it a legitimate interpretation to say that we should change it? Just I don't need to say how to change it.
That's called a whole resolution case. That is a legitimate and often under-argued theory. Here's why it fails most of the time. It's not something you shouldn't do, and in fact, we've had people at this camp try really weird things because this is a good chance to experiment. And guess what? Nobody can defeat a whole resolution case unless they understand what debate is really all about. That's the advantage of wonky theory, is you end up debating people who just were told, to follow this checklist is debate, and they are unable to argue with you. But here's the argument against a whole resolution case. You could argue with me, let's just say the resolution was this house should go to lunch. You could say we're hungry, we're tired, and we need food. That would be a whole resolution case. I could say there's nowhere to go, we don't have any money, and it's coming free to this room in 2 hours. All of which would mean that while it is true that we're hungry, that doesn't mean we should go to lunch. So the problem is, if you're not so willing to believe in, beyond something that's just bad, that we should actually do something to fix it, then you can't really be proving that we ought to change, unless there's a better alternative. What did I just really say? I really just said solvency makes sense. That's all I said. Solvency is a stock issue. If you can't articulate why solvency is a stock issue, you can't beat a whole resolution case. So again, back to very basics. Good question. Any other questions before we map this out? Okay, so what I want to do is provide the unified theory of debate. Why? A, because it is good for your mind to understand debate, how all this stuff interrelates. We're going to put causality on the board, which is the key part of relation. There's also a timeline. That's a part of the relationship too. It's important because you're going to do parley. Parley, you get any of these formats of resolution. It's important for some of you because you will want to switch at some point in your life. And we have found over and over and over, the best debaters are best at multiple formats. So last year, Spencer, for example, tried an LD tournament, for the first time? at the National Open and went and got second place. So he qualified for Nationals in LD because he was great at TP and Parley. If you can think well with the basics of debate, which are make a claim and support it with warrants to support a resolution, then you are really thinking big picture debate, not I'm following a checklist of what value debate or policy debate means. That's what we want you all to be able to do, is to construct debate from the ground up. Anytime you see a resolution of any type, a thesis of any type, the rest of your life, if it's debatable, it's one of these types. Otherwise, it's something like I believe X. It's a subjective thing. You can't really debate. If you say you believe, you like ice cream, I can't debate him that he likes ice cream. These are the class of debatable motions fall into one of these three categories. So this is a good mental pattern for you to understand your whole life, because in business meetings, you will find yourself referring to the tools of policy, fact, or value debate for the type of resolution there. Or you will find yourself excluding arguments because they don't really fit with the question you're there to discuss in the first place. Should we merge or acquire this business? And somebody else comes up there and talks about the importance of valuing of I don't know, one method of accounting versus another method of accounting. Who cares what method of accounting? That doesn't help us answer the question, should we or should we not acquire this business? Being able to discriminate arguments, exclude them from meetings and life decisions is huge. Okay, argument map. I want to draw it in the middle. So I'm going to erase all that. If you memorize this map, which is easy, it's a small map, then as you hear arguments and see interpretations, you can find the arguments needed on the map. Every argument of debate that is not about the format, in other words, not topicality critiques, or they were mean to me, fits into this map. On the one axis, going this way, we have cause and effect. So this is in time. On this axis, we have, what is it? Thank you. Oops, this one's time. This one's causality. They're related. Value debate fits in a certain area of this map. Policy debate fits in all areas of the map. And fact debate fits in a different area of this map. That's why we're learning the map. All the arguments of debate, links, brinks, impacts, turns, counterplans, values, criterion, all of those things fit somewhere in the map. Yay! We have a place to contextualize, we have a mental palace for all of the types of arguments in debate. Let's start with the present cause. What causes all things in the present? New TP debater. Who here is a new team policy debater? What do we call what's going on now? What? Call it current events. Good. What else do we call it? What? Ben, are you whispering? Yeah, okay, current events works. We typically abbreviate this the status quo, what's going on now, but the status quo encompasses, we'll have random asides here, current events, facts, statistics, etc. There's a stock issue word for this.